lot of people have been saying that Donkey Kong Bonanza is basically Mario Odyssey 2. So let's test that. This is 10 differences between Mario Odyssey and Donkey Kong Bonanza. Let's start with the movement. In Super Mario Odyssey, it feels very light and bouncy, and there were a lot of movement options for the time. While in Donkey Kong Bonanza, it feels a lot more controlled and calibrated and feels more like Donkey Kong in a way. And the fact that you can break anything in Donkey Kong Bonanza also means that there are a lot more buttons. Almost every button on the Switch 2 controller is used in Donkey Kong Bonanza in some way. Whether it's activating your Bananza powers, throwing chunks of terrain, or just slapping the ground, there are all sorts of ways you can control your character. Now don't get me wrong, Mario Odyssey uses a lot of controls as well, but there are still some things delegated to, the camera and snapshot mode. And this brings me to my next point. In Donkey Kong Bonanza, you can literally break everything. Anything you see out there, you can break. And some people are even adventurous enough to clear out entire layers of the world, and it's genuinely insane. And it really opens up the game a lot, and really feels like a true expansion of the 3D Nintendo game experience that we've gotten in the past with, Mario 64, Donkey Kong 64, Mario Galaxy, Mario Odyssey, and yeah. Next is the Bananza powers. Now, slight spoiler warning, if you don't want to know what all the Bananza powers are that haven't already been revealed in the trailer, then you can skip past this part. There are chapters in the description. Anyways, I think the Bananza powers are so unique, and it feels a lot like the captures in Mario Odyssey. Now, with these Bananza powers, you can activate them at any time. Well, in Mario Odyssey, you had to find a capture, and they only appear in certain areas. Now, one similarity with captures and Bananza powers is that there are certain sub-areas in the game that in Mario Odyssey are like doors or pipes, but in Donkey Kong Bonanza there's like these trial ruin things. And in these, some of them are Bonanza specific or capture specific, so you can only get certain things with those Bonanzas or with those captures. Next is the worlds. There are 17 main kingdoms in Mario Odyssey, and there are 17 main layers in Donkey Kong Bonanza. What a coincidence. Now, I know this makes a lot of sense because they're both developed by the same team. I just think it's really interesting to see that they're keeping a similar structure. Like, if you think about it, there's like a forest-themed world, there's an ice-themed world. Now, I don't want to spoil too much about the ending, but I definitely think that the story is much stronger in Donkey Kong Bonanza. And story/spoiler warning for the end of the game, you can skip this part just like I said in the chaptchapters. The ending, the plot twist, it is genuinely so amazing. It caught me by complete surprise the first time. How they bring back an old enemy that you have to fight at the end that came basically completely out of nowhere, and the boss fight is so unique. I feel like in Mario Odyssey, there were obviously the Brutals, and now there's Voidco. You kind of knew that it was Bowser that was behind it all the whole time, but in Bonanza, you had no idea that King K. Rool was coming back. There are no hints before this, and the fact that there's this whole extra gauntlet afterwards, sure, it reminds me of the Moon Kingdom after Bowser's Kingdom, but I think that Donkey Kong Bonanza just did it so much better, and it seemed a lot more like it was story-driven, and the characters had dimension. Even at the end of the game, once you beat the final boss, and you're like on your quest to 100%ing the game, you can see that Grumpy Kong and Poppy Kong have become good and are now just NPCs that can help you out. It's really cool to see how these characters can develop and realize that, Void Kong and Voidco is kind of turned bad, and they don't want to be a part of it, It's really cool. Next, we have to talk about the outfits. In Donkey Kong Bonanza, the outfits are genuinely so cool. Like, the menu's super clean, and the way that you get them through regional things in each layer definitely reminds me a lot of Mario Odyssey. But in Mario Odyssey, you were just limited to what they looked like. In Donkey Kong Bonanza, they give you power-ups. And it is so cool. For example, with the burger tie that is found in the feast layer, when you punch a food-related item, it gives you health. It's a simple thing, right? But sometimes it can be super useful. And you can also create really cool outfits with this. Another thing that is really similar about these two games is the post-game. In Super Mario Odyssey, after you beat the game, there were tons of things to still do, and it felt like a huge adventure was still ahead of you, and it felt like you had only completed a small part. It was like the beginning, and I think it's really cool. For example, after you beat the game in like Sand Kingdom and Luncheon Kingdom in Mario Odyssey, if you didn't complete everything in that world, you could still come back and you could like complete it and achieve world peace. But then in Donkey Kong Bonanza, the same thing happens with like the groove layer. You know, you can still clear things up, especially in the groove layer, because I think there's something just for post game where you can achieve world peace. Pretty awesome. Now, next is references. New Donk City appears in both games, with Donkey Kong Bonanza simply making a reference to Mario Odyssey's New Donk City. But in Mario Odyssey, New Donk City is basically a reference to Donkey Kong, which I think is really funny. There's tons of like little secrets that have to do with Donkey Kong, and like the girders and stuff are just like the old arcade games. It is genuinely so cool. For example, there's like Cranky Street in Mario Odyssey, or like the banana billboard. All kinds of cool stuff that has tons of references, and I think it's really awesome that in the next Donkey Kong game made after Mario Odyssey, they had a reference to Mario Odyssey. It is crazy. Now it's time for some honorable mentions. For example, like your ally in Mario Odyssey, it's Cappy, and now in Donkey Kong Bonanza, it's the Odd Rock. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers. It's actually Pauline. I think in Donkey Kong there's a lot more like voice acting and stuff, and a lot of that is shown through your main ally, Pauline. I think it allows the game to be much more immersive rather than just some text popping up that tells you where to go next. It's like Pauline is like much more of a character in this game, more so than like Cappy. Now this brings me to my final difference similarity between the two games, and that is the way that you progress the story. This is very similar in both games. For example, in Mario Odyssey, every time you complete a main story mission, you get a multi-moon. Sometimes it's just a moon that has a different cutscene, but usually, if it's something big, it'll give you a multi-moon. Because after you complete a main story mission, you will get a triple banana bunch, and it will then fall down to the next sub-layer usually. But then once you complete a big thing, like beat a boss or going down to the next layer, it'll give you a pentuple banana, which is like a big banana bunch, and it's really cool. And that's pretty much all, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. Comment down below if you want to see another part 2 of this, because I can definitely come up with more things and more similarities and differences between these two incredible games. And yeah, I'll see you there.